Welcome back to the Agents Confidential podcast. I'm Eric.
And I'm Yana.
And today we are going to dive into the world of technology. We have a special guest, one of our favorites, Brian Platte, on the line.
What's up?
Recording today from a
Undisclosed bunker.
undisclosed location where we are technology bunkered in. But Brian, what's been your experience with agents when it comes to technology?
That's a really good starting question.
Well, the first word that comes to my mind is frustration.
Both for you and for them?
Yeah, I mean, if we were to categorize anybody, agents for that matter, as far as their ability to comprehend technology, you have your maybe bucket one, your novice, maybe somebody that is just avoids technology, not because they can't do it, just because the perception of using technology scares them. Category two might be somebody that is currently utilizing technology. They're comfortable with it. They embrace it to a certain extent, but they're not coding software or anything like that. And then maybe level three or bucket three would be like somebody that fully embraces it. They're a trailblazer. As soon as the new iPhone comes out, they're lined up. They want to know every single feature and everything like that. I don't think that I would quite be in that category as a complete fanboy, although I do fanboy over certain musical instruments and things like that.
These microphones are pretty nice.
They are pretty nice. Yeah. The SMBs here, or SM7DBs. Look at us. We are fancy over here. I think technology, if we look at it from the 90s to where it is now, the UI on most platforms makes it fairly obvious as to, hey, this is a picture of a file, so I wonder if I click it, what'll happen, type thing. But sometimes, it's just not that obvious. And I think a lot of us are also working with elderly population. And even in that population, I've had clients in all different tiers on that spectrum as well, too. I'll never forget, I had a client that was 95 years old texting me on her new iPad, and I didn't even have one myself. So, I think that sometimes we can assume that people have a certain level of understanding, but you just never know.
I've talked with a lot of people, I would say, 50 and over right now in the, 2020s, that you had said something about, I'm going to click on this, I wonder what's going to happen, where they don't know what's going to happen, so they don't do it. And, if I hit the wrong button, I'm going to break it.
Or it's like the end of the world button, right. the nuke's going to go off.
It's gone forever. And you've shared some stories with me where we've temporarily lost some data. And, I was kind of freaked out, and you're like, no, we'll get it back. We know how to,
we've got backups of backups.
Yeah, how to do those things. So, okay, that's a good take. If we're kind of in bucket one, or kind of that novice for an insurance agent in, 2025 and beyond, what are some of the basics that you really got to nail down, and where people can kind of have this checklist and saying, hey, I've got, 5 of the 7 or how many ever you have, I'm going to work on these other ones.
Yeah. So the cool thing about where we are right now, technology wise, is even 10 years ago, where did you go? You went to, was it Geek Squad? So you would rely on that. Maybe you had a family member that worked in tech or something like that would, come and save the day. But nowadays you could just Google it, and better yet, go on YouTube, and there is going to be some sort of video walking you through anything. In fact, to this day, as techie as I could be, I really struggle with putting furniture together. Or if you ask me to change the oil on a vehicle, I literally clamor up because I know that I'm gonna have to pull out the 4-letter swearing machine, and it's gonna put me in a bad mood. And actually just saying that out loud is probably how people in that first bucket feel, that they're going to get frustrated. It's going to ruin their day. And really the only way to get over that is to implement it more and get over that hump, So, but I would say definitely, going on YouTube. I mean, even brand new technology. I remember when ChatGPT came out, and like a lot of us, I couldn't even grasp my mind around what is this? AI, how is that going to work and everything? And so hearing what maybe a platform does versus actually watching it and then emulating kind of what they're doing is a great way to learn. But I digress. I kind of go off in a million different directions here. Going back to your original question, what are some of the basic tools I think as an agent or just anybody? I would say email is pretty basic, right?
Sending, receiving, tracking in an
yeah.
email.
Appointment reminders.
Well, I got that email from you yesterday, but I can't find it. Can you send it again?
Exactly. And, and one of the things that technology, and you don't see this as much anymore, but I remember the UI of Apple initially, they would have like a bookshelf. So everything would look like it was in the real world and everything, kind of draw those parallels together. And so, yeah, I think that once you start thinking about like, okay, if you didn't have email and you had index cards, you're probably at a paper calendar and it probably is going to function kind of similar in a digital format. So just kind of using some natural intuition. I was somebody that I don't have any formal education. I didn't go to college. I figured everything out on my own. And even when it comes to technology, it's been the same way. I guess like somebody will tinker or wrench on a vehicle. I've done the same with computers. My method has just been literally, I'm going to click on this and see what happens. And then one thing leads to another. And all of a sudden you start to see patterns. And so that's one way to do it, right?
Well, and what's so nice is so many of these platforms, especially basic ones like email, CRMs, they have resource tabs.
Yes.
They have guides.
They have
out
a
there.
knowledge base.
Yeah.
Yeah. And most platforms, not just tech platforms, you go to their website and they have some sort of tool to interact with the company, a chatbot or something like that.
I love those.
Yeah, me too. But actually, I just did this recently, actually yesterday. You guys know that I can't sit still when it comes to my entrepreneurial ideas. And one of the platforms I'm working on right now, I had to update the LLC information in the background. And of course, my normal thought process is I'm just going to go click on things. Payments, this manager settings, it has to be in here. And I couldn't find it. And then I went out and started talking with the chatbot. And then I've learned over the years, kind of like with a telephone, if you press 0 enough, you're going to talk to a real person.
Yeah.
And so I kind of applied that same line of thinking or whatever, spoke to somebody, and within 5 minutes I had a solution. So sometimes you just have to have the gumption to just go seek out those solutions.
Yeah.
No one's going to do it for you. Even in bucket one, there's probably different sub levels there. Like, are you an absolute novice? Like, are you really 60 years old and you don't have an email address? I mean, they do exist. I have clients to prove it. Yep. And sometimes that's just avoidance, right? Yeah. I have a daughter that likes to avoid doing her chores, right? Or cleaning her room. And it's one of those things where, you could sit there and pout, but the same amount of effort that you put into pouting, you could have found a solution and kind of move forward type thing. So to be willing to embrace things, but hope that kind of
what are some
out.
A little bit. What are some a little bit You're really good at avoiding the direct question, talking around it. What are some things that agents will do and you're like, oh my gosh, they're still doing it this way? I think like applications.
Yeah.
Like a paper app.
Yeah, paper applications absolutely drive me nuts. I was very early on in adopting electronic applications. I saw really the utility of it, just in the time savings of it. And, we refer to that as a NIGO in the business, a NIGO, where on a paper application, if you're filling something out and a certain field isn't filled out and you submit that application, it's going to be pending. So like on an electronic application, it won't let you submit an application if a field isn't filled out. I think things like that.
So there are benefits to, because some would say, right, an opposer to technology would say paper apps work.
Yeah.
Sure, they work.
Yeah.
But a electronic app's going to help you with accuracy,
and
speed,
efficiency.
Yeah, efficiency and speed.
Yeah. Well, and let's look at, some of the obvious things that I've heard from agents. Well, What if my computer goes down? Well, what if you forget your pen? What if you write the application and it's on a old form and then you got to resubmit it? What if that thing gets lost and, God forbid you're still faxing? We know that usually when you fax things, they magically go into another dimension that none of us know where they go when it comes to insurance companies. The one thing I have noticed is when I get a more seasoned agent to adopt technology, then usually the next time I see them, they're like, I can't believe how have I gotten by this long doing it this way?
And I think of our systems like our quoting enrollment tool of benefit advice, right? So you're taking in your client's information. You think they're going to go with one carrier. So you maybe brought that app or a couple of them, and then something in the conversation happens and you have to completely switch to another carrier.
Yeah.
Well, now you have to start that form all over if you're doing paper. So
absolutely.
Or you didn't bring that one or what have you. And
well, even quoting itself, 20 years ago, you had rate tables and you were doing long division. I'm glad I was brought up in the industry where I was. As I mentioned, I don't have a formal education. If you ask me how to do long division, sorry to tell everybody, but I have no idea. I rely on a calculator to do all that type of stuff. And it's more accurate, right?
Some of the things you're talking about, the excuses. We can make all the excuses in the world to not do something. You really only need one reason to take action and make a change for the betterment going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't that long ago too. I mean, everything now application wise is in the cloud, as they say. It wasn't that long ago where everything was stored on your local hard drive on your computer. And some of us probably have experienced this. I think most of us had, where maybe you were working on a 10-page document and you forgot that there's no autosave, that's where I've lost a couple of computers personally. But nowadays, if you have a computer that goes down or maybe it gets stolen or something like that, everything is encrypted in the cloud. And I've had this happen. In fact, we had just had an agent that spilled her drink on her computer. And guess what? Within about an hour, we went to Best Buy. He has a new computer. Her Google Drive and everything is set up, and you're back in business. It's not that big of a deal. There's plenty of advantages. There's not too many disadvantages. Sometimes there could be trust issues with technology that I see with people that maybe haven't fully embraced it to like, I just don't trust computers And usually that's a smokescreen for, I don't want to learn this, I don't have too much concerns from a security standpoint anymore. And, on the topic of security, one of the things is when you're signing that agreement with like Google Drive, for example, there is typically HIPAA protection there to protect if there is some sort of data breach. And typically, if you sign what's called a business associate agreement, otherwise a BAA agreement, that extends that warranty, or that if something happens at the software level, that you are protected as a user, an end user of that platform. Yeah, those are just some of the things that I think are easy to overcome. But there has to be a willingness to want to learn. And if that's not there, then you might want to look at a different industry, because we're this
look at where things are going. We've heard in carrier presentations where I think they're incentivizing people to use an electronic app, right? That you're either compensated more or it's going to be sent in faster. I just worry about an agent that isn't adopting these things is going to be kind of left behind, and or not able to do their business in general. Talk to me a little bit about, like, I know some agents that keep a paper calendar. I mean, what are some things that they're missing the opportunity to do with a paper calendar that they could with an electronic?
Yeah, I get it. With the whole paper calendar, there's something about writing something down and committing that to memory. I get that. But at the same time, forgetting to bring your calendar to work or wherever you're going is going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that also most calendar programs, Google, for example, Microsoft 360, you have so much more functionality where notes are now incorporated with them and integrated. A lot of your other platforms like Zoom and everything.
And you can access it anywhere.
Yeah. And once you start actively using it and you see those benefits, for me, it would be hard to go back.
Yeah.
Almost impossible.
Yeah, I was cleaning out my basement and I found this tub of old documents and came across old calendars from high school and everything. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's how we used to do things. We used to write them down, but then the other thing was like, I don't know what I wrote down. Like, my penmanship has changed so much over the years.
Can't read my writing.
If you asked me to write a cursive Z, I don't know how to do it, guys. I don't know about you, but
Cursive might be part of that old technology that's going away. I think from a standpoint too, I mean, agents are super busy meeting with clients. They're running their calendar for each day and, having people call in to set an appointment when you could easily just send your client a link and say, if you ever want to schedule an appointment with me, just go on whether it's Calendly or how do you say that? Calendly.
Showing your age there, buddy.
Through some other consonants in there. I think it you don't have to have an assistant running your calendar where you can just have that link available and fill up your schedule.
Yeah.
One thing, I guess, a question I have for Yana would be with the age difference. Me and Eric are middle-aged men. Yana, you are are you a millennial or what?
I'm like right on the cusp.
Okay.
I think I'm Gen X. I don't know.
So
I'm 28.
28. Okay. So with that being said,
Who's born in the 1900s?
The 1900s.
So were you.
Oh, heck yeah. Everybody knows that.
I'm just curious, from the age difference, even with my children, on how they learn. And, everybody has a Chromebook at school and everything.
Yep.
Do you feel that your age bracket just has a natural leg up?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay.
So Sydney, who's another young person in the office, she and I joke about this all the time because I swear we grew up in the perfect age because we grew up like still running around playing outside, like without all of the tech, but it was introduced in schools at a very young age. And growing up with access to computers and phones and everything as it grew, because it really did start growing when we were learning it, I feel like I can learn any platform in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I feel whenever I come to you with any one of my crazy ideas or, hey, I found this new AI, this or that. Well, even this morning we were talking about Notebook LM, which if you haven't checked that out, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yana had it up and running before I could finish my sentence. And I was just like, I watched a YouTube video for 45 minutes myself. And here you just instinctively knew how to use it.
It does help that I've studied UX design.
That's true. That is very true. Just a thought here. What if everything reversed? What if your generation, what if technology broke down and we had to reverse and go back to paper? I wonder if the same train of thought and frustrations in adopting technology would be the same in reverse.
I'm sure it would.
Do you imagine kids using a pencil and clicking on the paper, trying to hit send? I drew a send button and I'm clicking it, but
it's not sending.
Brian, I wanted to say one thing to Yana's point about growing up. Remember going to the computer lab? Like it was, holy cow, we're going to go use futuristic machines right now. This is a special once a week for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, the phones my sons carry with them are more powerful than those in their pocket.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, in the 90s, I remember, I think anybody else that grew up in the 90s when the internet was emerging, you had like a dedicated room in your house. This is where the computer goes, and you had that the static ring up, type
the dial up.
It's really interesting how far things have come. In fact, I remember when Windows XP came out, and that was just all the rage, and we're just like, look at the graphics on this thing, it's just on another level.
Microsoft, or what is it, Microsoft Paint?
Yeah, we can draw. I've asked agents, how in the world did you write all the business that you have without this? Back
honestly,
in the day?
That's the most impressive thing to me.
Yeah.
Is how agents have been able to grow without the technology.
I think that's a great idea for a future podcast. Maybe we have plenty of agents that started up in the 70s, some of them maybe even the 60s. And I have asked that question, and to hear their stories of going to somebody's house and pulling out a binder with modal rate factors and having to figure out the amount of work it took out to figure out a life insurance quote.
Crazy.
We actually had to work. It's amazing that we actually are in an age where we get paid for solving people's problems. But one of the 99 problems that we don't have is figuring out the actual rate.
Yeah.
Or sending off that application and not knowing for weeks if it was approved.
Yeah, it was kind of like, when you were in middle school and, you had that girl that you really liked, and you had to actually write a letter, and then you had to wait for a response, like, yeah, the same thing in insurance, like, oh my gosh, is this thing going to get approved? Everything is so instantaneous nowadays.
Well, and I think the efficiency aspect of embracing technology helps you focus more on the client.
Yep.
And their problems
Absolutely.
and the customer service that you're able to bring to a client appointment now.
You know what, Yana, that is full circle where
Yeah.
this is all kind of coming to, is that, yeah, you could spend more time doing the things that matter and outsourcing the things that don't matter. And that's been a big thing for me, is just delegation.
For sure.
But in the past, delegation always came with a price tag on it. And nowadays, even where AI bots are going right now, they do a better job, giving it a knowledge base and the level at which the responses are coming back, and giving it a letter, write this letter to this client type thing. I'm oh my gosh, they actually know how to speak English and
be more empathetic.
Yeah. What is that?
Yeah.
It's all in the prompts, but I did call ChatGPT our creative team today. So
Did you know?
We had an interesting thing happen about 20 minutes ago in the office. We unboxed a new toy.
Oh yeah.
And
a new tech toy.
set that up. I was fascinated by watching, the 4 people trying out. We got a digital whiteboard and filled the screen with scribbles and letters, and all of a sudden it was, wait a minute, how do we erase? and Brian, after a few minutes, goes, well, I guess we can't erase.
I guess I'm gonna have to send this thing back or unplug it. One of the two.
I know. Do we have to delete everything?
Yeah. Well, and it was interesting because we hung it on the cart, turned it on, and you guys just started playing around, using
intuitively. It was just like writing on a regular whiteboard. And then the solution, I'll let Yana.
I need to give her a shout out. My mother, Gigi, if you're listening, thank you. She is not the best with tech, but she's the one who figured out how to erase.
And how exactly do you erase?
Just with your hand. You just swipe it.
Just like you were going to erase chalk on a chalkboard.
Just like you would erase a regular whiteboard.
and the oohs and ahs that came out of that office.
Right.
You would have thought that we just landed on the moon or something.
It was a proud daughter moment.
I heard from a distance, I did it.
She did great.
I just want to throw that story in there.
She deserves the shout out for that one.
So I'm kind of curious to get your guys' feedback on this as well too. You guys asked me, how I'm embracing technology and everything. I'm kind of curious from your different positions in the industry, how you're utilizing technology. Even, creating this podcast.
Yeah.
Yana, I'd love to get your input.
For sure. I love technology. I think it is a beautiful way to make your life easier and save time and be more efficient and be able to give more and have a higher output. I use ChatGPT every single day. I love ChatGPT.
You just got a tattoo. You want to tell everybody about that?
I probably would get a ChatGPT tattoo. But I used it during AEP specifically to help my mom and Miranda, but I need to send it to a client. I needed to hit these XYZ. I need to schedule it. I need to tell them to fill out the scope of appointment. Can you write me an email? And it does it. And then it was a copy paste email from there on to schedule an appointment. For follow-ups, just any type of client communication that's via email. I love ChatGPT for that.
What about from a creative side? I mean, you're definitely a very creative person, and being a creative person myself. Sometimes just getting started
Yeah.
with ideas, when I'm sitting there with a blank, I want to say piece of paper, but a
Blank
A
screen.
blank screen.
A blank screen.
Yeah. It can almost engulf you and just like your brain goes numb type thing.
Yeah, it can be intimidating, but I think you just have to start.
Yeah.
It's very simple, and I know that's probably not what people want to
Well,
hear.
I
but
think
like,
where
you
I was
just have
going
to.
with that was like asking ChatGPT. I've been tasked with doing this
Yeah.
from this perspective or whatever. And
Yep.
I can't tell you, like, I'm almost at a point now where like I get excited when I get to write something.
Yeah.
Because giving me a different perspective on maybe how to write that, maybe how to collect my thoughts, and my
And
ADD
organize
brain is
them.
just all over the place, all the time. And I just love that it can kind of keep me on track.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It definitely helps me to organize ideas. Like the idea that I sent to you the other day, I did not know how to articulate it, but I had ChatGPT workshop it with me, and it was great. It helps me so much, so much. Another one that I love is Canva. So if you are an agent solo promoting your business, get a Canva account. It does not have to be the pro, but I suggest that one because it's really nice. There are so many tools and automations that you can do. I mean, you can bulk create. You can create lots of different things. It gives you templates. It makes it really, really easy to create any type of digital asset.
From a logo design
Yep.
to maybe a Facebook banner
Yep.
to anything creative.
Anything.
And
And you can set up your branding so that you can automatically have all of your guidelines. That's the word. Your brand guidelines, so that it's easily, you can apply it to every single design.
Yeah, the thing I like about Canva is its other, I should say, maybe predecessor platform being Photoshop is
Yeah.
amazing. And don't get me wrong, it's from a functionality standpoint has lots more bells and whistles,
Yep.
but it is so intimidating. And
It is so intimidating. And I love Photoshop too, but working at AEG, the creative output is fast. So Canva makes it easy.
Yeah.
It's just fast. It's just faster.
With all the templates and everything, having a starting point.
Yep.
It's almost like they've thought of the most common use cases. Of course they have. And you could just get things done so much quicker.
So much faster.
Where Photoshop is still kind of like a blank canvas. And yeah, you could do all the fancy things with it, but people go to school for that, take classes on it.
I did.
And and then there's just like so many different levels of like ninja status with Photoshop.
And honestly, as an insurance agent, you are making it to any type of graphics that you're making, you're using it to either post on social media or maybe make a flyer or business cards or something. It doesn't have to be to the level and extent of Adobe Photoshop. Canva is easy enough. But from a creative side, I know that's a little bit in the weeds. And do you want to talk about password management?
Sure.
Should we?
Yeah, let's dive into that.
I think that's a good one.
I think that
All right.
is an area that we are all frustrated with. I don't know anybody that doesn't go a day in this industry where they have to yell at their screen because, the password isn't long enough. It doesn't have enough this digit or that digit.
It's not
or whatever.
strong enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've already used that one.
Yeah. I've gotten that.
This is something that I really struggled with for a long time. When I started off with writing that down, and it's like, oh, I could put this in a spreadsheet, type thing. And then it was, oh, but then I have staff now and they need to access these platforms. And then the security level of passwords and encryption, everything has gotten to the point where that just doesn't cut the mustard, right?
Or if
Doesn't cut the mustard.
if your passwords are all written down in
Is that the idiom? Am I?
I've just never heard it, and it's really funny to me.
If it's not, everybody listening to this, feel free to laugh at my expense.
if your passwords are written down in a book or on a sheet of paper or a post-it note somewhere, what is the likelihood that you will be in that area when you need that password? My mom has struggled with passwords. She has a book. She calls it the Old Testament and the New Testament, where she has filled this thing with passwords, but it works for her, right? So what would a safe step be for somebody, or some tools that you've used to get away from that and being able to access passwords and retain them
From anywhere.
Yeah. So a good password keeper, a platform that, a lot of them are free. Some of them are, you pay $5-10 a month. I've used a couple different platforms. I don't know. To me, they all kind of do the same thing. I don't want to endorse one or the other, but some to consider would be LastPass. 1Password is one. Those are the two kind of, I think, leaders in the industry.
What are they to our listeners? What do they mainly do?
Yeah. So when you fill out a password on a website, a little thingamajigger
Icon.
Thank you. I really do know technology.
For reference,
guys.
everyone, we're recording this at 4 p.m. on a Friday. So
Thingamajigger. I'm gonna have to chat GPT that one.
A prompt comes up and asks, do you want to save this? And then it will automatically fill that password out when you come back to that website. And now more than ever, it's so important to have a password manager because you're being asked to update that password. Because, it wasn't that long ago that you would have a password and you'd have it for 10 years. But now, especially on the insurance side with all the regulations and everything, sometimes on monthly, I feel like there's some companies where I'm like, I swear I just changed this 2 days ago type thing, asking me to do it again. So the password manager will keep you organized, number one, but it will also help you with passwords that are not easily hackable. And then the other use case scenario for a password keeper is if you have other people that need to access that same website. So if you have staff or, you're a husband and wife and you need to access your banking information or whatever, you can share those passwords with multiple people. You can have different security groups on what they can access, when they can access it, all that type of stuff.
now the key is to remember the password for your password holder.
We do have I do have a funny story about that. So I'm not going to mention the name of the company because I was really mad, but I lost my main password to my password keeper. Now, guys, I run an FMO, okay? There are literally thousands of passwords, and I don't even remember the scenario and what happened. Yeah, it got to the point where I was using 2 platforms simultaneously until we found a solution on it, but yeah, write down your master password. That is something that you want to write down.
And do not lose it.
Do not lose it. Put that in a safe.
And remember the combination to the safe.
Yeah.
or you subscribe to 2 platforms and one platform remembers the master password.
The master password.
All
Oh my
right.
gosh. So what I'm hearing from you, Brian, based on our conversation, is any insurance agent out there, at the very least, should have a CRM, a calendar, and emails, security tools. And I also think we should add in here, too, some file management.
Yeah.
Cloud storage.
Yeah, let's speak to that a little bit. So there's essentially 2 camps out there, right? Either your team Google or your team Microsoft. Both platforms are now cloud-based, so you don't pay once. It's everything is subscription-based now.
Yep.
And both of those platforms are going to come with email, your calendar, your file management, all that type of stuff. So although there are platforms where you could purchase these things kind of all a la carte type thing, I'm a big fan of Google Workspace myself.
Yep.
We're Team Google over here. And that literally comes with every Google product on an enterprise level. The cost is so reasonable. I think it starts at like $12 a month a user or something like that. So definitely would recommend hopping on something like that. Also, for the reason on something like Google or Microsoft 365, also having a domain on your email that matches your business is...
You mean not just Gmail?
Yeah, or AOL or Lycos or all the different platforms.
Free
Prodigy.net.
Free email website.com.
Yeah. So a lot of those platforms, you'll be able to integrate that with the domain and manage that all within the same platform. And then also from a team management standpoint, you as the administrator have access to the platforms that your staff can use and access.
Which gives you like some oversight.
Yes.
Yeah. So like
You're able
Yeah.
to manage that.
You have a rogue
Correct.
employee.
Just
you
turn
can-
them off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Turn them
One
off.
flick
You
of the
can go
switch.
in. You can change passwords. You can
Absolutely.
You're in control of that.
Yeah. There are platforms like Box and
No,
what's-
Dropbox.
Dropbox
is
is a big one out there. And they're great platforms. Nothing wrong with them. But if you can get it all in one single subscription,
You should.
you absolutely should do that.
Yeah.
Brian, are you bullish on file cabinets going forward?
Am I ever? Yes, for storing physical items. Yes,
Not-
files.
For client
though?
files, no.
Not paper.
Not paper. No,
Gotcha.
no. How many file cabinets do we have in our 7,500 square foot office here
Not many.
Well, the file
that actually have
I would
files
say
in
the stuff that is in them, the contents is like sales kits and things like
Paper
that that we're
clips.
going to be giving out to clients. So
I keep coffee in mine.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I'm definitely not investing in file cabinet manufacturers at this moment.
Yeah.
So if you look around your office, you see a lot of file cabinets. You may want to start scanning.
Consolidate.
Yeah, and storing your items.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting thought too. There are a lot of great inexpensive scanners so that the scanner, like in an all-in-one printer, for example, is going to be really slow if you have to scan, thousands and thousands of documents. The one that we use here I've been using this for the last 10 years, and there's new models. It's the Fujitsu ScanSnap.
You want to know something funny? I don't know how to use a scanner.
You don't know how to use
I don't know how to use a scanner. I have the Adobe Scan app on my phone. So I just take a picture of it and it scans it.
Okay, so this
I don't know how to use those.
This is a real interesting scenario here. So intuitively, how do you think it would work?
Well, I know that you have to set it up and you put the thing in and it scans it and it sends it to you.
Yeah.
I understand how it works.
Looking at the scanner
I
over
could
here,
not get it to work for me. I tried.
I wish we had video right now. On
I'm
Yeah.
so
this
red.
Podcast.
we need
I'm
it didn't
embarrassed, you
happen, I
guys.
think.
Brian's gonna get his insurance agent voice out.
Listen, I'm embarrassed.
Well, no, that totally makes sense. I think that the changeover to digital,
I can learn a digital platform in less than 5 minutes. I cannot set up a scanner.
hardware is your arch
I
nemesis.
can't do it.
Well, it was interesting. We had an agent who was a little nervous about putting a document through a scanner because they didn't want anything to happen to it. So he took a photocopy and then drove it to the office and dropped it off. I said, "Was your phone not working?" And they said, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Well, you could have just taken a picture of it and texted it to me." They're like, "I didn't even think of that."
Yeah. No, I have a full scan app.
Yeah,
And it's
definitely. There's some great phone app.
I know how to use that.
Scanners, on small use case scenarios and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But if you're scanning a whole file cabinet,
You're gonna want to.
you're gonna want a dedicated scanner. They're usually $300-400.
Are there services for that?
Yeah, there's also services for it. The premium that you're gonna pay to do that.
It's not worth it.
I think it really all depends. If you're like an agency that's been around for 50 years and you're going digital and you've got documents that are 100 years old, okay, maybe I could see that. But if you got a couple file cabinets, you hire a couple kids for $15 an hour,
Yeah.
and a week later you got everything digitized.
For sure.
Hopefully, we didn't repel anybody from using technology here, but
We covered a lot in this episode, and it might be very overwhelming for you. So, for any agent out there who is feeling some overwhelm about adopting technology into your business, here are some steps and reminders for you. Start small, adopt one tool at a time, and adjust from there. Choose user-friendly solutions, so a good CRM that is intuitive to you, good scheduling, good email. User-friendly just means easy to use and one that you can intuitively use. Leverage training and support. So use the free tutorials available to you. Use the chat bots. Contact support teams. They are there to help you learn the platform. Focus on ROI. So look at the time saved, the errors reduced, and the sales that are increased, because these are tools that are going to help you automate the tasks that you're doing every day so that you can scale your business. And also learn from other agents. So thank you so much for coming on, Brian. We really appreciate your time and all of your insight into the technology world and all of your tips that you have to offer. If you found any value in this episode, feel free to like it, subscribe to us, and tell your friends.
Yeah, I also want to kind of close out with, there was a lot going on in this episode here. It's hard not to go all over the place with technology. And I would say to the listener, if there is a specific program or a certain need that you are looking for a solution on, let us know.
For sure.
We'll research that. We'll do an episode. Heck, we might even reach out to you and give you some customized solutions.
For sure. We would love to know what technology you're struggling with and what technology you love. That'd be great to know.
One other thing that I wanted to mention is join our Facebook group, interact on there, ask questions to other fellow agents. I have learned so much from other agents on emerging technologies and seeing how they retrofit current technologies into our space. So
it's exciting. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.